Hi everybody, my name is Murate Masima. I am a junior medical doctor based in Gauteng and I'm currently completing my second year of internship, which is absolutely crazy for me to say that because I cannot believe how much time has passed since I was still studying at Stellenbosch and graduated. But today's video is going to be something I've been thinking about and also personally experiencing, and also other doctors have been experiencing. So I would like to just say it's going to be a very casual and very real heart to heart from me and my own personal experiences as a doctor living in South Africa. And I think that it is also something that other people might also really benefit from knowing before you do decide to go into medicine, or even when you are about to get to internship, to have certain expectations, because it's a lot. But yeah, let's get started. So the very first thing I'm going to be talking about, as in the title, is doctors' expectations versus the reality. And I think I speak for myself when I say that I definitely went into medicine not necessarily thinking that I did watch Grey's Anatomy, I did watch Dr. 90210. I didn't really heavily base my decision based on what I saw on TV or series or anything like that. I actually did speak to a couple of people, and I did get to visit Stellenbosch University and interact with a whole lot of doctors as well as medical students, and I was one of the lucky few people that could do that. My expectations weren't necessarily very high, but I do think that I had misconceptions about medicine. The very first thing is, the misconception rather, is that doctors are rich. And I laugh because, to be very honest, I think that we are, maybe we can say you are comfortable, or intern salary is comfortable. However, it is very, very easy because we have to actually pay for stuff like personal insurance. For example, if we do get injured at work, or we get a needle stick injury at work, any of that, you do need to get a certain type of insurance or health insurance that is not necessarily that necessary for the general public. So we have a lot more expenses, I think, that wouldn't necessarily exist if it wasn't for our job. So I don't believe the doctors are rich. I do think we get boosted straight after university, and I think that is the preconception, is that obviously we have to get through internship in order for us to be independent practitioners, and the only way for us to get there is to actually get into internship and do our community service so that we can actually be fully functional doctors. And I think that it is then seen by the general public as, okay, you study medicine and you get a job straight away, life is easy and everything is all like going to the top from then on. And that is really not even close to the truth. And it's actually proven that doctors have one of the worst financial abilities in terms of managing their funds and managing their money. It's a highly stressful job. And I was actually talking to someone else, that a colleague of mine, that a lot of the times after calls, I've noticed I spend a lot more than, or when I'm stressed, than when I'm going about my day-to-day activities. And that's simply because after a 24-hour call, your dopamine levels are very, very low. You're exhausted. You haven't slept for 24 hours, probably haven't eaten that well as well. And so you need that kick. And a lot of us just make very bad financial decisions. Then we decide to go shopping. People end up buying designer. And I mean, yes, there's a lot. But essentially, it is not the career to get into if you want to be rich or you want to be wealthy, because trust me when I say that there are other ways and other means to actually become rich. If you really want to be rich, there's other careers that you can do that will allow you to get to that level a lot more quicker, and also with less stress and less amount of work that you have to put in. Because another big one for me was that I believed that I would be going straight into plastic surgery after med school, and boy was I very, very mistaken. So for those that don't know, I became a doctor because I wanted to be a plastic surgeon, and it was one of my goals from when I was even still in high school. And I watched Dr. 90210, and I saw myself with the practice. I saw myself doing the surgeries. It was always something that I wanted to aspire to become. However, it's quite evident now that I've been very much influenced by like maybe the US and the UK and how they do things there, because in South Africa there is no such thing. You have to go through 6 years of medical school in addition to 2 years of internship, as well as 1 year of community service. And that is when you are doing general medicine, or rather the medicine that we as South Africans need the most help from. So you'll see that a lot of specialities in South Africa are a lot more popular or different to the ones that are popular in other first world countries. So in South Africa, we need emergency medicine doctors, we need trauma surgeons, we need obstetrics and gynecologists a lot more than, for example, a dermatologist or a plastic surgeon, simply because in South Africa, our population deals a lot more with trauma and violence and murder and things like that. So it is what we are one of the highest countries in terms of crimes, and that is the reason why I would say if you want to be, for example, a neurosurgeon, you're not going to walk into the speciality or into that residence as a lot of people might know it as. We don't do residences. We have to work really hard, write primaries, write diplomas, and do a bunch of courses, apply for the job to become a plastic surgeon, and only then are you on your way, like 4 or 5 years on your way to becoming a plastic surgeon. And if you look at it from that way, it's basically 12 years of studying to get to the specialty that you want to get to. So keep that in mind. Another very big point that is also specific to South Africa is that our government and our public sector, health sector, is not doing well. When I say we're not doing well, I mean we don't have water in hospitals sometimes. There's load shedding in hospitals and even in theatre and in very big operations. I remember I was part of a C-section where I was assisting the surgeon, and we had load shedding. And the surgeon had only just got the baby out, and we still had to stitch the mom back. We still had to put everything back together. And we were doing everything using our cell phone lights, guys. And I think, in other countries, these are things that are completely unheard of. And I think that other doctors from other countries will never even hear of or even try or even experience anything like that. And I've seen so many people lose their passion for medicine at all costs, because we are fighting a system that is against us. I was actually reading an article on News 24 that basically spoke about the fact that for every one doctor in South Africa, there is 1,010 patients. Yeah, that's a lot to even take in, because that means we are extremely overworked, extremely understaffed, and there isn't think of a better future or for us to want to aspire to work in public, because you have to balance what is more important. Is your mental health more important to you, or is you serving people more important? Because basically they cannot coexist. If you think that this is more important, this is going to tank. And if this is more important, then obviously you're not going to be working in the public sector, and that means South Africans are not going to be getting new doctors, and that is just the reality of it. So it's something I didn't see in medical school, I'm not going to lie. I studied at Stellenbosch University in the Western Cape, and for anyone that has either walked into a hospital or even worked in a hospital in the Western Cape, a lot of them are actually very functional. A lot of them work the way they're supposed to, and a lot of them even feel like they're private hospitals. So if you come from a system like that where you don't necessarily have to struggle for resources, that was not even my thought process when I was still studying. And you go to a completely new environment. Yes, I work in Gauteng, which is also a very affluent and rich province. But then you think about the provinces like the Eastern Cape, Limpopo, Northern Cape, where when I say there are no resources, I am saying there's ambulances that take at least 2 hours to get to patients, and patients end up dying, and healthcare workers are the only ones that are left to deal with this. And I think that it's something very important to consider. All right, and then another one that I was about to touch on that I am going to also just say right now is that just if you love your sleep, don't come to medicine, guys. I don't know how else to put it that will be in a nicer way. If you like to sleep for at least 8 hours a day, and you don't like to stay up, you don't like to study, you don't like to do anything, you're not a night owl, you can't handle a 24-hour call. Of course, you'll never know whether you can handle a 24-hour call until you have to do a 24-hour call. But when I tell you that calls are ruthless. So for me, my expectation was that firstly, there would be very nice on-call rooms. You know when you watch shows and movies and things like that, you're thinking, okay, there's going to be a nice room for me, there's going to be a fridge, there's going to be a computer somewhere, good lighting, it's just going to be a comfortable experience and I'm actually going to get time to sleep. But you are sorely mistaken. That is the opposite of what happens. What happens is that we honestly just get some random room. A lot of the times, sometimes there's not even a bed. But if there is a bed, there's no linen, there's no sheets, so you kind of have to bring your own sheets. But I struggle to do that because I'm thinking to myself, I don't know what is on that bed in the first place. There's no fridges, so your food just stays in your bag. And if you have fruits and like something like a Red Bull, then of course your stuff is going to get cold or just not survive the 24 hours. Like a strawberry or banana from the previous day in a hot bag is really not the same as if it was in the fridge, you know? So those are like the realities. You will be on call and you will be there for 24 hours, sometimes not having a break, especially in rotations like obstetrics and gynecology. You are going to be on your feet, barely gonna have time to actually eat or even go to the bathroom. So that is the reality. The level of burnout that can hit you unsuspectingly so is very high, and you need to learn now, either if you're still a medical student or you are an early intern or you are aspiring to become a medical doctor one day. Just know that you need to be very resilient in whatever you choose, because you will be tested. You will be tested and you will definitely feel like there are days that you really cannot handle such certain things. Another expectation that I had was that in medicine, you will always be employed. And I think that this is something that we all believe in, even in high school. People are like, yeah, if you become a doctor, it's a sure way of being employed. You're going to get a job straight away and you are going to be set for life. And that is the furthest from the truth, especially in South Africa. So guys, currently SA is going through a lot, and there are so many doctors that end up unemployed or just end up leaving the country simply because there's no funded posts. So what that means is that there are jobs for doctors, there are posts for doctors. However, because there's no money for those posts, they can't actually pay a doctor to work there. And so we have a shortage of doctors in hospitals, but we don't have the money to employ them. And so the ones who are left are basically working overtime, you know? So that is the reality of South Africa. There's a lot of doctors that finish community service and they are unemployed for months on end, sometimes even a year, simply because there's no posts for what they either want to do, or you end up working in a clinic, for example, just so that you can kind of get by through a month. Even the posts to start specializing are reduced. Like the competition has gotten crazy. And I think that when I first decided to study medicine, which was, that's going to be a long time ago, I think now it's like 8 years ago, things were very, very different. Climate was different. I think that back then it would have been much easier to specialize, much easier to get a post in what you actually are passionate about. Because there's so many aspects in medicine. You can be a microbiologist, you can be a forensic pathologist, you could be a dermatologist, you could be a hematologist, you could be a trauma surgeon, a neurosurgeon. Everybody has their place, you know. If you don't like one specific thing, doesn't mean that you're gonna not like the other thing. But it's now difficult to actually follow through with your passion because the post that you really want might not even be funded anymore or might not exist anymore. So things like dermatology, I was looking for dermatology because I was thinking to myself, okay, I need something that I can balance with everything else that I do in my life that I'm really interested in. And when I say I only saw 2 posts for dermatology, and the requirements were crazy. The requirements required you to have research done in whatever, this amount of years in a dermatology unit, your HIV diploma, this and this diploma. And those things are hard to attain, especially, you know, during ComServe. Like that is almost close to impossible. So it takes years to actually get into a specialization. But what do you do in between those years, you know? That's why you'll find people just start their own practices or people move abroad. But also, once again, starting a practice is a risk. It's a business at the end of the day, and businesses can fail. So if you are in a place that is highly competitive or there's just not enough foot traffic, you're not going to actually get a profit from having a GP or having a practice. So there's quite a lot to consider that I think that I don't know. I don't know if I didn't know this information and everybody knew this information, or things have really changed that now we are in times that are completely different. And understandably so, the world is going through a lot right now. We've got wars. There's the thing that's happening in Iran. The recession is coming our way. Like, there's a lot going on, and I think that perhaps the times are changing. I just would really advise people to diversify as well if they can. Not have medicine as like their only source of income or their sole purpose. It's so important right now to try to diversify and try to find other skills that can also sustain you, because we are looking at very interesting times. So the last expectation versus reality that I had was that I thought that I didn't think that medicine was going to be easy, but I felt like, okay, I had really good marks in high school. I was a top achiever. Struggled a bit in mathematics and physics, but I thought, okay, I'm gonna know and kill this thing. But guys, when I say that being a doctor is hard, I can't quantify how hard it is. It is beyond, I guess, my expectations, because being in high school and having good marks doesn't equate to you being a good doctor. I've seen so many people that have done extremely well, but the job requires you to be a multifaceted individual, from being able to converse and communicate well with people. Really, you are around people all the time. So I think that you really do need to think and sit down. Do you like being around people? Do you like being in people's business? You know, when you're doing procedures, putting up a urinary catheter, are you going to be comfortable with stuff like that? That is the reality. Are you going to be comfortable with things like that? Because at the end of the day, that's what being a doctor is. Being able to do procedures, being able to focus and really think in highly sensitive and highly stressful situations. When there's resuscitation happening, are you going to be the first person that's going to jump in and say, okay guys, we're going to do this? Or are you the one that's going to panic and cry? So I've almost had both experiences. At first, I think my first resus was quite shocking to the system. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I think that is something that is very important to be discussed. And if you guys have any other questions about medicine or just in general internship, you can put them down below, and also suggestions for future videos, especially sit-down videos, because I think that I have quite a lot to share. I just don't know in what format you guys like certain videos as well. And also, I mean, I'm coming towards the end of my internship and waiting for my post for community service. It's a scary time, and I'm really nervous about what I want, and I'm praying for certain things and hoping for them. But at the same time, I'm just like, you know what, whatever life throws at me is what's gonna happen. Anyways, I hope you guys have a good day, and thank you so much for watching this video. Bye.